Hello everyone, welcome back to Tesla Plays MaGMML 3. Okay, so I had to think really hard, based on what happened. And this is what happened last time has made me come to a conclusion. I'm probably gonna shrink the amount of stages I do down from 4 to 2 from now on. Yeah, I'm just gonna be doing that. Because the last session took 2 hours due to the kind of stages I had to complete. Yeah, that's not something I'm going to be able to just handle anymore. So, yeah. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I will be going back to some of these stages at some point, using cheat mode just to show me going through the stages. Okay, this is the one we left off on. And, trying to make a actual honest attempt at trying to complete it using some advantages. How many advantages might depend on the stage, honestly, but we'll see how it goes. But for the time being, I'm not going to be doing that. We have judge commentary to do, for one thing. Teetering Over the Edge by Kuno Tsuchiyaka. It got a 13.2 in design, 9.4 in fun, 4.8 creativity, 5.6 aesthetics, and 9.6 in functionality, and got 42.6 total. Mick, 38 of 100. This level gave me a very odd first impression. No idea what to make of that music. Anyway, at first, this seems normal. If anything, it's really dull. Suffers exclusively on simple enemy challenges, which can be annihilated with the Buster and good aim. It'd also be the only part of the level you actually play if you end up finding the hidden teleporter, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. After the checkpoint, wait. Yeah, never mind. I thought we already did this one, but apparently not. Checkpoint, we have the most precarious teeter-totters known to all mankind. Attached to railings that look like they should be solid. Seesaw section is the most involved part of the level. It's also really easy to mess up and die in the tiny platforms. The reason why Blade Man preferred spikes in her seesaws is just because they were pointy. The level just ends? Kind of a neat concept, but this was bare bones a lot of ways. Skill match for being effective turret, at least. Wait, no, we already did this one. What the fuck? Hold on, I'm confused now. Oh yeah, never mind. My apologies, everyone. This is the one we were supposed to start with. I don't know why I thought Teetering Over the Edge was the... Yeah, definitely doing 2 at a time from now on, if it's gonna be this hard to keep track of them. House of Fun is what we started with. Okay. By C-Smack Oriosac. It got a 12.4 in design, 6.0 in fun, 6.8 in creativity, 8.4 in aesthetics, 9.0 in functionality, 42.8 total. Considering the general atmosphere, I think the name... Mick, 37 of 100. Considering the general atmosphere, I think the name's meant to be ironic. Most of the design here falls into one of two camps, boring or frustrating. Boring applies mostly to enemies. They tend to just be in the way, a real effort to engage the player. When I've worked in the Guts Lift or Hover sections, just wait out the Guts Lift without issue, and the fire totems with the Hover either plain cannot aim, or they're annoyingly accurate to no middle ground. Fish Rain Camp is the pendulums and magma beams. Yes! Fuck this stage, man. And it's where I have significant issues. Some platforms are okay by themselves, but combining them with magma beams as soon as the third platform is pushing things. Pendulums are not that easy to control. As a designer, you can't assume everyone has played Mega Man 9. There's no real opportunity to get used to things before you're thrown in the fire, that will mean a lot of annoying death. Combined with lack of utilities and some really annoying tokens, it spills over into a problem. Lack of utilities warrants a special word of advice. Don't do this. Thank you, Judge, for basically agreeing with me. Yes, don't take away my options, you assholes. And look, I'm not trying to be mean here, but this has been happening a little too often for my taste in this game so far. At least in MaGMML 2, when they did it, at least a lot of them had a reason to do so. In this game, I'm noticing that they're doing it just to be mean. To make stage hazards annoyingly artificially hard. So, I feel like I have earned the right to be a little nasty at this point. A player with options for how to succeed is a happier player. Removing options, that flagrantly is antithetical to how MaGMML operates. Especially since, this level in particular, the most powerful utility for breaking it, Clean and 2, is still very much available. It was the only way I had patience to get the tokens at all. I'm guessing you mean Ice Wall, but honestly, for the Pendulum section, I don't really see how you could use it to really be efficient. Maybe if you were pixel perfect on activating it, but still, I really think that it's pretty much really awkward to use, and I just didn't have the patience for it. Beyond that, this place just feels unpolished. The first train camp isn't the only piece with poor introduction. Just the most memorable, and the boring elements tend to be strewn about without much evidence of thought. I also take some issue with the ice telegraphing. Painting girders blue and white does not make them icy. Took a few girders for me to really catch on. Get the boss fight far more aggravating than necessary. I just teased him. Overall, I didn't have a fun time. He did a lot more polish than what I got. Shinryu, 3 out of 100. There's some decent ideas here as far as enemy and gimmick combinations go. When it comes to execution, this level goes way overboard. Things don't start out too bad, though. Some of the enemies and gimmicks have decent introductions, save for a few here and there. The slippery girders come to mind. It's pretty easy to miss out on their functionality the first time you see them. That was going well for the most part, at least until the magma lasers showed up. Mixing those lasers with the Jewel Man swings is a nice idea in theory, but its uses here definitely could have used more restraint. Trying to sync up the swings with an opening in the strictly timed lasers quickly goes from tense and engaging to outright frustrating very quickly. Yeah. You wanna know what the big problem is? It's not strictly the magma lasers, it's the fact that the swings are too far apart. If they were a lot closer to each other, I could maybe understand there being a timing puzzle there. But they're so far apart. You have to have the swings at the very edge of their momentum, and you have to be at the very far end where the magma lasers can nab you, and you have to time it perfectly. Like, seriously, it's just too much, especially without utilities. This is especially so for the second and fourth tokens. Quite frankly, ask way too much of the player in terms of timing and precision. Yeah, I still can't believe I managed to nab that fourth token. It took a lot of attempts, and I'm surprised I got it all. That timing is so harsh. Funnily enough, the part after the first magma laser section is anywhere near as bad. It's It's a pretty small chase the platform segment. I'm really not too much of a fan of those. It was still pretty tolerable compared to what came before. Can't really say the same for the final stretch of the stage, though. Includes some really nasty enemy placement. Worst of these has to be the Kakenpa tank on a swing towards the end. I don't know what's expected of the player here other than to just jump on the swing and pierce it to death, later try to— oh, the one with the shield, got it. Or sit back and use Spark Chaser. That works too, I guess. I'll just use Laser Trident. Because any other method seems to end with taking an unavoidable hit or falling off. Strike Me is a section that wants to be brutal simply for the sake of it. Which is unfortunately how a majority of the stage plays out. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. The guy wanted to make a Kaizo stage, and he certainly succeeded there. Patchy, Physics 700. Omelette, Funhouse. But can it be trusted? What do you think? When I see something called House of Fun in a Mega Man game, I do not think it can be trusted. Where's the house in it? And more importantly, where's the fun? Yeah, indeed. The swinging platforms combined with the lava pillars could be really irritating to get the timing right. Doesn't help that Rush and Magnet Beam are disabled for whatever reason. Tip-level designers, please don't take away options from the player just because you want them to do the challenges legitimately, especially when said challenge winds up being so precise and constrained. Yes, exactly. I think she said it's better than anyone so far, because, yeah, like, the whole point of Mega Man is to enjoy using weapons and stuff, as well as utilities. People enjoy that shit. Remember how many people loved how good Rush Jet was in Mega Man 3? People loved cheesing the game with it. Sure, it made the game easy, but who cares? People enjoy that shit, man. That's why they play these games. To unlock all the cool options. Taking them away honestly lessens the experience and makes the games feel like it's just... Like at that point you may as well just make it into a Contra game if you're not going to give people unique weapons or utilities. I had a lot of trouble locating the first token because it's hidden away in a room. There's no natural indication that you can scroll into it. Not approved. Yeah, with how hard the challenge is already, if I didn't have the scanner telling me where that was, I wouldn't even try checking the wall. I like the little joke with the Octo Generator mini-boss, where you can pretty much trivialize the fight with the shielded dudes it spawns, because the bullet ricochet shenanigans. Yeah, I didn't keep it alive long enough to find out. Again, if I ever go back to the stage with, like, cheat mode, I might fight the bosses more fairly then, but... not under normal circumstances. The rest of the level is fine, but the abundance of swinging platforms and lava shooters just kind of made the whole experience somewhat miserable. Final section is where it is established that you can jump across the lava shooters. But then it's not actually the right path to go on to the final part of the session. So that was a bit awkward with the false guidance. Admittedly, I didn't run into that problem, probably because I kept going up instead of the lower path, but... Green Devil is a very wonky vulnerability window that's just not fun to fight against, so of course it's made worse here by adding damage spikes into the arena. Fun indeed. It really wasn't. At least the music is actually fun and energetic. Nice rendition of a Super Meat Boy track. Oh. Considering that, I'm really surprised he didn't just decrease the respawn rate and add more checkpoints if he wanted to reference Super Meat Boy. Alas, what could have been. The colors could use a bit more saturation, though. The choice of tile sets were fine otherwise. Flashman A5, 30 of 100. Instant death challenges involving both precision platforming, precision timing, spanning areas so wide that blind jumps and disorienting back and forth screen shifting are unavoidable, without any of the usual utilities to ease the difficulty when needed. On a first playthrough, this was one of the most unpleasant levels of the contest, making me distrust houses and fun. To be fair, you should distrust those anyway. Yeah, oftentimes in fiction, when a fun house is implemented, usually it's either in use by villains, or has some character in them that is just distrustworthy by nature, like clowns and shit. So, yeah, I wouldn't trust them anyway. A second playthrough, knowing what I was in for, the difficulty was almost bearable. But levels should be designed to make beginners into experts, not to punish beginners for being beginners. The first stretch teases a halfway sensible learning curve, which promptly falls apart when the level becomes bombarding the player with one-off enemies and advanced gimmick setups, leave no room for error. It's a half-minute wait if you miss your line-guarded platform, and the timing in that section makes it especially clear the level is intended to be played in a very specific way. The climax is a deadly surprise of count bombs and rising falling platforms, which were only seen for half a screen, half the level ago, leading into a thematically irrelevant boss fight. Hold on. Okay. Lack of enjoyment aside, I don't see how this qualifies as a house of fun. Expecting an amusement park vibe, mirrors, bouncy floors, assets from Cloudman's level, wacky architecture, whimsical decorations instead of actually minimalist ones, carnival music instead of something that feels like I'm scaling a mountain, etc. Okay, to be fair, I probably would have loved it if they would have taken inspiration from Spring Man or Clown Man. Like, if they would have found some way to combine the two, that would have been kind of neat, but that's not what we got, unfortunately. I do like the checkpoint placement, look of some of the backgrounds, the creativity of swinging platforms, plus magma lasers. Why? Trickiness of the token challenges. Fact that the spikes in the boss chamber blow up with the boss. And the opportunity to swing enemies off of platforms into spike walls. Several good ideas here, but this usually makes me weep in agony. I didn't know you could swing enemies like that. I don't know, but I wouldn't have cared. A-Spark, 4500. This ended up being a long one, I'm afraid. Okay, so, House of Fun, eh? We leave a few other F words that would parachute the stage. Yep! Fiddly. Frustrating. Falling. Maybe even... heck. Okay, so... I think I know the word that was supposed to go there, but I'm guessing they wanted to make this kid-friendly. Suggest anyone playing, especially those that like to go and buster a natural, bite the bullet and just use the weapons. Yep, I've learned that by now. Because that is the only way this gets remotely close to its namesake. And honestly, if the factor level requires this community up front, get behind that, but frustratingly it just isn't. I don't think that was even the level's intention. Think how all of the rush and magnet beam utilities got disabled. So anytime enemies show up, their entire shtick is to either track out the length of time between the checkpoint, whatever pit Megman found himself thrown down, or be completely out of the way chucking projectiles. Player tries to awkwardly time themselves in the Jewel Man swings, into the magma streams, only to get conked on the head the moment they jump, so Megman goes down yet another pit. The actual Jewel Man magma stream challenges weren't this awkward? Maybe. Just maybe. The enemies wouldn't keep making the player feel like a right wassack. Okay, that's certainly a word. British. Okay. Okay, so it's basically a term meaning an idiot, basically. Maybe, just maybe, the enemies would keep making the player feel like a right idiot. Got it. Alright. Because, oh boy, this combination of gimmicks is the furthest thing from fun I can think of. Making use of the Jewel Man swings requires a fairly sizable attention to the player to use, right? It's not exactly the most basic of gimmicks. The player needs to keep track of the combined momentum and timing. Magma beams also require timing, right? You time away between them based on the visual cues and sound effects combined. Source game, they were used on flat, often stacked screens, and were still a bit of a nuisance. No, it makes it really hard to keep track of either of those things. Being on a bloody swing that moves at Magma Beam Generator often on screen, blinding the player as they swing right into a beam that they could not either see, or in some cases, even hear coming. Especially cute when you're between Magma Beams and on a swing. Very cute. Also cute is the first long corridor of this combination, being what has to be the tightest jump in the stage. Mega Man saw that particular pit many times, just barely missed the jump onto the concrete platform. The tokens, and even the end boss this level, are also a nuisance, but that's par for the course. The only thing that stops us becoming untenable is thanks to Tornado Blow and Ice Wall. Help manage these difficult screens with the other weapons, getting rid of the worst of the enemies. Judges will, by the end of this, decide whether or not stages get skips. I'm a Natchira wife suggesting it. Doesn't quite get there for me, but we'll see what everyone else decides. That said, as you may have guessed, I did not in fact have fun in this house. Thankfully, they did decide on the skip. I did manage to beat it legit, admittedly, but that's only because I was actually being a little stubborn on this one. Because I made it pretty far without getting into frustrating territory here. Because I did actually make it cross the Magma Beam room, the first one. And after getting past that, I really wanted to see if I could beat it. However, like I've already said, when it comes to stages like this being in the contest, I'm going to stick to two stages as a rule from now on. Just in case we get multiple stages like this in a row again. Because I don't like the idea of having to suffer for like 2 hours straight to get through 4 stages. So no, we're not doing that anymore. And since I'm in the area, I may as well go ahead and give my returning thoughts on this stage. Okay, so I was fairly negative on the stage when I was actually doing it. And to be fair, I still think there are parts of it that could be balanced a little better, but if I were to just play the stage as the only stage and whatever, when I'm not so stressed already, I probably could handle it, especially if I use Robot Master weapons to trivialize a lot of it. Because that's the thing, I wasn't really doing that, I was trying to use the gimmicks. But the thing is, I had my utilities, I could have used them to skip a lot of the platforming. And had I done that for a lot of the challenge, it wouldn't have been so bad. I think the tokens were the worst part, though, since some of them kind of forced you to use the gimmick to get them. I'm probably not a big fan of that, but still, for the most part, it wasn't as bad as I made it seem. Certainly better than Ace Spark's first stage I played, which honestly felt like it was really, really punishing. It was the space stage. Yeah, that one was... ugh. Speaking of punishing... Arcane Man, Chaos Tower, CERN HQ remains. It got a 12.6 in design, 7.2 in fun, 10.2 in creativity, 6.8 in aesthetics, 6.2 in functionality, 43 total, with a 4.6 out of 5 in difficulty. Great. Mick, 47 of 100. Yeah, I think Mick's expression says it all right there. What? What's that about? It feels so completely weird that it defied explanation on my first playthrough. at least 2 or 3 runs before I could begin forming my opinion. Well, that's great for memorability. It's largely to the level's detriment. No MaGMML level should be this bewildering on a first run. Fortunately, beneath the omnipresent and chaotic aesthetic is a surprisingly playable level. Assortment of enemies, links them from Mega Man 11. But only the shadowy clone holograms of Black Hole Joes really stick out significantly. The rest are basically just obstacles? The holograms? Memorable in a good way. You can find obstacle during the star fields. The Black Hole Joes? Their suction is much too strong, and they have too many gotcha moments with force beams. As for the gimmicks, they have solid concepts, but their execution is usually either excessive or confusing. The force beams are on the excessive end. Giant Beam Room is very repetitive for its sheer size, and the gotchas can be irritating. The star field, meanwhile, is on the confusing end. Putting it bluntly, slightly fading the player is a horrible way to telegraph that the triangle and square solids have flipped, which is and isn't solid. That terrible tail ruins an otherwise effective room. Thankfully, the galaxy portals are playing great from start to finish, so stage design ends on a high note. The boss fights are no less mixed. The Wily Cat is a welcome break after the Starfield, not to mention hilariously silly. The Hotarun's got an excellent concept, but its arena is painfully cramped, and to dodge the screen clear isn't exactly, well, clear. Use the portals. But the real weak point is Arcane Man himself. Ugh. First phase could work, but his tails are too fast. His grab's ability to insta-kill you is poorly conveyed. Wait, it can? Man, I'm glad I didn't run into that. His second phase is a struggle to control thanks to everything pulling you everywhere, making a rather chaotic jumble. And his final phase can get spammy with the spot-blocky black holes, but it's really the easiest of the 3. No, it ain't. All in all, it leaves a bitter taste going into the lore dump. But to end things on a high note, the token sections are quite good. 3 is one of the highlights, offering one of the only threatening Wall Blaster 2s I've ever met. The real complaints I have is that 1 can be a little glitchy, and 4 is a bit obtuse. But my highlight of this level has to be Ether Man, as he's a far better boss than his minion. Yes, he hits hard, has several health bars. You have respawning tanks, lots of dodge room, telegraphs. Oh, Ether Man is what I was thinking of, not... Oh, okay. Okay, so let me go back a bit. Okay. He's just talked about the first arcane battle. I'm guessing there's 3 phases to it. I just didn't even notice. I was busy trying to figure out a way to kill him. The freaking instant death smiley face move sucks, though, seriously. Okay, let me get back to where I was. But my highlights level is the Ether Man. He's a far better boss than his minion. Yes, he hits hard to several health bars, but you have respawning tanks, lots of dodge room, telegraphs, for the most part, can be recognized from anywhere. I disagree. Still a bit rougher in the edges, particularly the arrow portal, half health phases. But ultimately, I had fun with this fight. Yeah, I gotta disagree on that. I just wish the dialogue was so lengthy. Y'all are super lucky you have a cutscene skip, because we didn't get that in judging. Yeah, I liked reading the stuff, even if it was a bit much. Overall, I had more fun with this than I expected to. Guess it's a very good level. Too many spots that are rough around the edges. It's an experience I'll not soon forget. I'd even say I look on it fondly. I don't think the stage itself was the problem here, it's just very long. There are a couple of moments where I literally got annoyed though, like that one room where you have to use the Galaxy Man portals, and you have to constantly remember which of those unique platforms are solids or not. Still, that was like the only part that really got under my skin much. Aside from the tokens. Shinryu, 23 of 100. This is a very awkward level to talk about, not because of its design and functionality issues, although those certainly don't help. Rather, it's because it's a level with tons of potential. There's some interesting concepts here that obviously had a lot of effort and creativity put into them. They're ultimately brought down hard by bad execution. Barring the rather odd visuals, things aren't too bad when you initially drop into the level. These things like the movable blocks, laser generators, and the yellow star Joes introduced fairly well. Granted, the blocks are a little glitchy if they get too close to a screen transition. One situation where a block consistently zipped along the ground whenever it re-entered a screen. But other than that, things was okay for those first few screens. Things start to take a turn for worse is when you reach the colored block rims. These are some of the most visually disorienting segments in any Mega Man stage I've played. That you get as to whether or not the square and triangle blocks are tangible, slight fitting effect on Mega Man sprites after entering a portal. The background being filled with constantly moving stars only adds to the visual overload. While I did eventually figure out how it works, it doesn't change the fact that this section has some incredibly bad conveyance. It makes it doubly frustrating for anyone going in blind. The rest of the segments following these rooms were thankfully a lot more tolerable by comparison, but still had their fair share of issues. First, there's the Galaxy Portal segments. The Yoku variants of these are an interesting idea. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have at least a bit of fun with the parts involving them. I can't say the same for the moving and rotating ones, however. Dealing with them felt more tedious than anything, mostly due to the strict timing and spacing involved. Yeah. Ultimately getting set back a couple of steps multiple times in a row because of it. That is said, the only other part of the level that stuck out to me was a screen with a force beam in the center, like Old Joe on the other side. You can very easily die the moment you enter this room, because the Joe immediately starts pulling you towards the force beam, which to me indicates either a lack of care or playtesting. As minor of a section as this may be, it's still a pretty glaring issue. Then we have the bosses. Tell my mini-boss certainly caught me off guard at first, because I was expecting a serious Sam reference, but I can still appreciate it. I would not know that. That said, it still ended up being a pretty straightforward fight, and probably the most enjoyable of the bosses level has to offer. Second mini-boss, well, his first phase is tolerable. Phase left a bad impression, right away when it suddenly dragged me to the center pit for an instant death. It also has a full screen attack that's incredibly finicky to avoid, usually forcing you to jump into portals at the last possible moment before the attack goes off. After that, there's Arcane Man. Besides obscuring the screen in his second phase and being generally chaotic to fight, but it goes from annoying to infuriating due to one thing: his grab move. Getting hit by this locks all your weapons, and it disables your ability to charge slide. This is straight up awful to force on someone during a boss fight. It'd be one thing if you could knock him out of doing this, like Magnus Centipede from X2 for example, but to my knowledge there's no way to mitigate this other than to either get hit by the grab again, or just avoid it outright. All of this would be even worse due to a bug that keeps your abilities locked if you die from this attack, which is likely given how much damage it does. By comparison, the optional boss is much more tolerable. Why do people keep saying that? Strangely enough, he did glitch out on me at one point when one of his Arcane Man clones fell to the floor. The fight is still a bit of a mess, mostly due to visual overload from way too many effects going off, but he was nowhere as annoying to deal with than the main boss. People keep saying that, but I thought he was way worse. I actually kind of had fun with him, to be honest. To me, that's probably the most bittersweet note to end this level on. Like I said before, unique ideas in here that could make for a fun, interesting level. They're more refined. The Level Maker. If you ever do go back and make a more fine-tuned version of this stage, please let me know, because I'd really like to see how that would turn out. Pachi, 45 out of 100. Entry 007, Arcane Man Review. Eh? 007? Was there a James Bond reference that I just didn't notice? Maybe I'm just ignorant on that. Summary. A detailed document compiled by Analyzer and MaGMML Contestula Dr. Fake Name Opachi. The following document details the afterthoughts after Dr. Patchy's exposure to the submission, titled Arcane Man Chaos Tower, Stern HQ Remains. Document start. Oh boy, this stage. First off, that's quite a mouthful of a stage name. Definitely grabs the attention. The title sets are all over the place. It's a mixture of everything. Theming doesn't seem to stay consistent. Backgrounds are also a huge mix and match. sometimes even deliberately made glitchy looking. That's why it's a Chaos Tower, I guess. Still a messy presentation. There's just a lot to take in for every room in the stage, be it some strange visual effect, bizarre enemy designs, unintuitive puzzle segments. As if the sheer room size for these on its own is absurd enough. More isn't always necessarily better. Some of these gimmicks are neat. Do you like the Yoku Galaxy portals? Some not so much, like the abundance of black hole gimmick, present in so many places, as well as the phasing shape blocks, where some blocks are even intangible without much to tell graphics-wise that they behave differently. The mini-boss thing, the Simon Says looking thing, can be pretty mean. The black hole thing, if you get rid of all 4 cores, is just a rude thing for first-time fights. You also occasionally get stun locked on the teleporters if you happen to leave certain cores alive. Huh, I didn't realize that. It's also a strange bug with special weapons sometimes being locked out after repeated attempts at Arcane Man. Arcane Man. Arcane freaking man. Let's see, teleporting all around, being erratic as all heck, fake out telegraphs, reflecting your shots, disabling your weapons, and even tossing around the room like a ragdoll. Oh, and let's not forget a desperation attack where he becomes completely invulnerable. How to create a wonderful disaster of a fight takes absolutely zero account to the player's enjoyment. Because that wasn't bad enough a fight, let's have another! Now it's Ascended Arcane Man or something, I don't know. Multiple health bars, because of course. Terrible palette, making it impossible to tell how much health is there exactly. Always airborne, more black hole attacks that home in onto you. Yet more desperation attacks with absolutely awful visual clutter. Somehow a little more manageable. Why does I wouldn't agree with that? Even you, Patchy. Because his attacks are more pattern-based compared to normal Arcane Man. Still not very fun of a fight. Well, at least you said that. The story, it's just way too out there and does not fit the Mega Man universe at all. Especially not the classic era, at least. Something about souls, death, and other morbid subjects, too. See what I mean? How it doesn't fit the generally carefree and colorful nature the classic series is known for? Level was definitely a mess. Memorable experience for sure, but it's not one that I wouldn't want to go back to. Document end. To be fair, I'm kinda tired of the classic series in general for that reason alone. The fact that it's carefree, colorful, and lighthearted, to the point to where that's all it's known for these days. And about nothing else. I'm honestly getting tired of that, especially with how long the series has lasted, through mainline titles, fan games, and honestly, even basic projects that have released. Not to mention the MaGMML games themselves. I'm kind of getting tired of this. Like, at least the MaGMML games try to give a story to these games, which is certainly more than the mainline titles seem to want to do. Like, seriously, like, what's wrong with giving series like X and Zero, I guess, a little more attention than this? I'll get more into that when we get to a later stage, though, to be fair. Flashman A5, 35 out of 100. There's no shortage of free reviews, video playthroughs, social media discussions about how to make a good level for this contest. Contest rules even link to some of this wisdom. This level repeats all the worst mistakes of MaGMML 1 and 2. To the point to where I would believe you if you told me this was a troll level poking fun at MaGMML 2's Yggdrasil. I don't know if I'd agree with that. Yggdrasil, in my opinion, was far worse. But it seems, especially in the hologram areas, the player is constantly bombarded with challenges take too long to complete. Too many new ideas at once, too many threats, too many different tile sets, too much animation, and under too much pressure to react instantly, with checkpoints and power-ups that are too far apart. Screen count is already triple what it should be. These issues make the level feel even longer. Everything about this level is too much. It also goes for the difficulty. Mini-boss is hard to dodge. Mini-boss is outrageously overpaced and unforgiving. And I never want to fight him again. The episode boss at least has the awesome visual effect of sucking up the background. Power-up catch beforehand is merciful consideration. But the fight is exhausting. Yeah, I couldn't actually beat him. I gave it a few attempts, but I couldn't figure out how I was even supposed to win. Although I think on one attempt I came close, but... I hate the instant death he can do. That's one thing I hate about both fights, is the chance of instant death. I can commend the inclusion of official Capcom enemies that represent the dev kit. The creativity of using Magnet Beam, or a point-blank charge shot, to pull crates. I did not know you could do that. You can celebrate the genuinely fun teleport challenges, programming skill necessary to create such complex and mostly glitch-free bosses. If I ignore how they clash with each other, I can appreciate the rampant, ridiculous humor and the deep, albeit typo-ridden, lore. There are moments when I can almost set aside my fatigue and frustration enough to start enjoying the experience. But they are merely moments, not enough to save the level from the pitfalls we urged everyone to avoid. A-Spark, 65 of 100. I bet you're expecting a meme here, perhaps? Maybe that one with Chris. I'm too afraid to ask Pratt. What about Chris Pratt? Huh. That's a joke I don't get. Maybe some abomination of... Dav? Looking like that weird character pre-saying "Why though" in the infamous painting by Fernando Botero. Man, a lot of references I just don't get. Oh no, I have things to say, and no, this is not going to be a long rant. I love MaGMML 2's Yggdrasil. Why do people keep making comparisons to that? Yggdrasil is much worse than this. I know full well what first impressions with the stage are like. To MaGMML 2's Yggdrasil, people may cry. Maybe in a way, yeah. It seems it's a confusing ball of surreal insanity. It's weird, it's rather ugly, both fortuitous and pretentious at the same time. It arbitrarily throws not one, but two super bosses, with obnoxious special effects. Think straight, have a Windows ID screenshot. Feels like an utter mess. And it is. Let's not sell that short. It's a total burning heap of a stage. But heap of what? Beneath that mess, that poor first impression, beneath the cover, is a stage that honestly kind of works. It's very consistent eternal logic to what the stage does with its gimmicks. The moment what the stage is trying to do starts to click, so is the rest of the level. It doesn't throw curveballs with mechanics. It builds upon what's been said. And it never really breaks its eternal rules. Even the most obnoxious and potentially confusing of enemies in the stage, in fact, fairly basic in their actions, just applying changes to Mega Man's movement. Things you can deal with when you're prepared. So what is the deal here? What is the stage? Well, to be truthful in terms of mechanics and stage design, I like this. I like this. Yes, actually, I like the challenges here. Some of the puzzles require your thinking head on. Others require you to pay attention to weird surroundings, because sometimes, just sometimes, there's something at place. When a stage ultimately, utterly fails at its conveyance, say it doesn't teach its mechanics well is an understatement. The player is left flailing badly as they try and pick up what the bleeding hell the stage is trying to ask of them. Do you use special weapons to deal with force beams? You can shoot the generators? The ones that look like background objects? Just what the hell's the deal with those reskinned Galaxy Man teleporters and the shapes? Some changes in the aesthetics here and there, force beam generators at the player's height to teach that mechanic. The galaxies that change the solidity of the block shape, showing a much clearer indication which ones are currently active. The lack of teaching applies to the two bosses, although I feel a lesser extent to the super boss. There's a unique instant death mechanic to Arcane Man, where he drains your life force. The tell that something is happening here is far too subtle. I think that's the key thing. Your enjoyment here will come down to how frustrating the learning process is. Once the stage makes sense, it makes sense. There's nothing really all that frustrating about it. Just so much, so many times bungled in teaching, I think this stage will struggle for it. The bosses, I didn't find Arcane himself much fun. There's both all these cool moves, but ends up feeling really clicky to fight. Through the constant shifting of the player, the instant kill moves, arbitrary blocking of the player's shots at unintuitive times, not a fan. Said Etherman, clearly trying to be a mega hard super boss, more enjoyable fight, I swear I cannot agree with this. It's much more difficult, and can still do instant death. Good lord. I think this is the one time where teaching elements actually land. Here, have 4 energy tanks. It's possible to hit hard, play hard, use everything against it. I tried that. It didn't exactly help. It's also got a generally more recognizable pattern, easier tells. Save the ether barrier being a bit hard to spot. It's a manic battle. It's a bit out there for the usual Mega Man, but ultimately I came away positive. For the record, at this point, I don't really dislike Yggdrasil that much anymore either, but Arcane Man is the superior stage by quite a bit. Huh, that's interesting. Have the judges come around on Yggdrasil? I have mixed feelings on that stage in MaGMML 2. And I will get around to playing that game one day as well, so I'll save my thoughts for when I do that, but I don't really feel like this is like Yggdrasil, really. It's just a very long stage with 2 very frustrating bosses at the end. And I hate... what is that guy's name? Etherman, yeah. The Etherman fight, they seem to like, for the chaotic nature of it. Apparently he has recognizable boss patterns, but god help me, I couldn't figure it out. And I also couldn't figure out a decent way to harm him. He simply keeps always out of reach. All the damn time. Like, I swear I hated that fight so much. Radium Man. It got a 3.8 out of 5 difficulty, 13.4 in design, 7.2 in fun, 8.0 creativity, 8.0 in aesthetics, 6.6 in functionality. Mick, 41 of 100. Looking at this level, 2 words come to mind. Unfocused and unpolished. You can see the potential for an interesting concept buried in here. It has a lot of the ingredients necessary to make something fun and unique. However, it's a bit like an early baker's everything bagel. It's a little too much everything to really shine. Specifically, this uses 5 to 10 different gimmicks, and over 20 different enemy types. It's far too many for one level. It leads to a ton of redundant concepts and one-use enemies. More prominently, results in a lot of untapped potential, which is a shame as some of these could be really good. My best example of untapped potential is the Rising Nuclear Water. It shows up in one room. One room is long, unimpressive, and has an incredibly awkward design that could kill you easily. Could be used for something like a chase sequence, especially with the Astro Walls. Or it could rise and fall at a rhythm as you traverse a series of platforms at different heights. These are just a small collection of possibilities, but there's a lot you could do with just a small selection of gimmicks. Personally, I'd advise dropping the main gimmicks down to just the radiation liquid drops, and pulls both. The Astro Walls, the nuclear casters, and that one cool set piece with the shrink ray. Never got that far. Then bring the enemy types from 20 plus to around 6. Put this more in line with the standard Mega Man level. They could create a much better result. Also change the mini-boss some less nonsensical, and tone down Radium Man's rod attacks so it doesn't persist for several seconds for no reason. With those changes in place, this level could be a lot more fun to play. Yeah, I'll have to play this stage legit one of these days, just to get to the end. Shinryu, 32 of 100. While the theming is certainly on point, can't exactly praise this level for much else. Simply put, the stage is all over the place, especially when it comes to the gimmicks. Each one gets its own dedicated section, which is a bad idea on its own. Problem is that once the section is done with, the previous gimmick is dropped completely in favor of a new one, never to be seen again, and so on. The waterfall and barrel segment is easily the best part of the level, to the point where I wish there was more of a focus on them. On the far opposite side, however, you have the moving pillar and spike segment. Aside from the frequent glitches that could cause you to phase through the pillars. Placement of the Swalloon at the end, what ruins it. You already have a rather tight and demanding section with instant death as the punishment for failing. Last thing it needs is an awkwardly placed enemy that can easily blindside the player. All of this is topped off with a boss that could have been fun, but for one major flaw. Lingering effects from the rods he tosses out last way too long. It's strange, considering the custom Pick-a-Man enemies of the stage have a similar attack, but the resulting explosion effects don't last anywhere near as long as Radium Man's. I've had fights with him where he's coated the entire floor in those radiation blasts, but it's virtually impossible to avoid taking damage. One of those fights ended with the energy element landing on one of those lingering blasts, which forced me to wait for several seconds before it disappeared, so one more hit would have killed me. If that isn't a sign that the boss, as stage for that matter, could have used for playtesting, then I don't know what is. Patchy, 36 of 100. Holy moly, enemy spammy! Yeah, that's one way to put it. Poor Patchy. There is so much stuff being flinged into your face for just the first few screens. It's not even funny. But the enemies cluttered to ambush you at every half screen, together with new gimmicks introduced this chaotic environment. No chance for the player to be given breathing room, resulting in deaths that really feel unfair to the player. Scenes in general is just super unfocused. Features so many enemies that serve to knock you around like a beanbag. Pummeled at acid pools, death pits, crushers, what have you. Doesn't look like the stage calms down from asking for insane maneuvers at the player later on either. Difficulty curve is non-existent, so high all the time. The stage also suffers some slowdown with so many of the Overdrum objects being spawned in that one screen. Music choice really matters. You get a song that isn't intended for a long hearing, just being put into a full-length stage. It's really irritating and demotivating to continue playing after a while. Radium Man. Guess his sprite looks decent. Fight consists of area denial with those lingering toxins. And you can manipulate where he throws them in a way, but I don't think you can really stop him from covering the whole arena, which would lead to catastrophic results. Flashman, 50 out of 100. I wish I could write a more glowing review, but I've got to discuss some massive critical issues. Rising acid slash slime is unforgiving, which the acid slash slime drops disappeared upon hitting the surface of the liquid below. List a couple gimmicks, and I found 3 different ways for players to mess up the level flow after Pro Man appears. I should also address the elephant in the room. The mini-boss drops the ball in every way. Based on the power-ups strewn everywhere, you only assume you're aware of how difficult the level is. Too many objects are in too small space, there's the learning curve, there's a damper and a no-damage buster only run, clutters the visuals. Pulling rod area is an improvement, though still too difficult from the combination of constant precision and omnipresent instant death. Only the thoroughly charming microzone feels properly balanced for MaGMML level. It's a shame the easiest part is at the end. Concluding the level is a mostly solid boss fight with, well, looks like he's from The Simpsons, which I guess is appropriate. Interesting. The man's pattern's just right though, the explosions linger longer than necessary. The bombs can be tricked to spawn in the ceiling if you jump high enough. Neither hazard disappears when he dies. Big fan of how the boss chamber looks, here and elsewhere. You to see such a creative application of dev kit tiles. Even with a few color schemes that don't quite work for me, the aesthetics overall do a good job of creating a sense of place. Theming is a strong point, despite the level having the memory of a 3-eyed goldfish when it comes to what the enemy roster is. The core challenges of each section are creative, make total sense with the premise. A-Spark, 52 of 100. So this level can't decide if it wants to be a decent level or a horrible level, and is split between its first and second halves. It does not get off to a very good first impression with constant bombardments of enemies that do not mix and new concepts thrown at the player in completely dangerous situations. It's one of the places where lack of safety prevents any sort of game plan on the part of the player, so it's in the player damage boosting in order to get through. When on the hovers, there's very little room for dodging enemies and projectiles, heavily timed situation. Oftentimes avoiding damage or even just survival requires clairvoyance. In some cases, it seems utterly impossible. Many elements of the first title level are counterintuitive. For example, getting through the Rising Acid Room requires the player to wait an exorbitant amount of time before they even start moving. Otherwise, the result is the acid combing you to death. This room also does not offer any safe spots in places where it looks like there should be. Perhaps the acid should have started halfway up the room. The Palzo room is far too cramped for the meat boss used. The enemy requires pretty precise movements. The layout here makes things far too reasonable to pull off. The second half is a lot better in terms of enemies and how reasonable the challenges are. Particularly the barrel platforming section. Some highlights were the waterfalls and the subatomic platforming room. One of the best qualities about the level was the perfect checkpoint placement, which meant it never got frustrating. Except for the shifting wall room, which harks back to the first room requiring clairvoyance, being nowhere safe to stand. Did not manage to avoid the swallowing at the end, and had the damage boost to the section. MaGMML himself cannot decide between the two halves of the level. It can be immensely frustrating. One of his attacks, some dull warning, interrupts you if he were to move. On the other hand, if he uses the other two attacks, he dies fairly reasonably. Had this boss used AI rather than RNG, this would have been a much better fight. Aesthetically, the level looked fine. The music was a horrendous choice. It's not written to be used at such a long level. I can't really comment much, since I had to skip this one pretty quick into it. Oh, hi, Proto-Man. You visited Waveman Saloon? Or rather, a Waveman Saloon. It's not the only copycat there. Another familiar face there, though he's honest about not being who he appears to be. He's got something he can't use, he's looking for a buyer. Already taking care of it. Anyone else that's new over here? Doesn't look like it. Topman 2, spin or go home. 3.6 F5 difficulty, 4.56 in design, 11 in fun, 7.2 creativity, 7.6 aesthetics, 5.4 in functionality with a 5% time penalty, 43.5. Mick, 43 of 100. An attempt to make a bigger and better Topman stage, eh? Considering the original was a victim of fresh development and fortunate circumstances, I can see the appeal, despite the risk to the creativity score. Did it work out? Kind of. The new top platforms are a shining element. While they get a bit spammy sometimes, they also have a number of twists and turns, make them a lot more interesting. Namely, Ghost Explosive Tops. A personal highlight was the Super Giant Top, turning the spinning behavior into a combat obstacle. And Green Topman was a fun fight. I also appreciate that it's relatively obvious which type of top is which, since it's color coding. But I feel like this might actually work with color. I feel like this might. Yes, the color coding, but I feel like this might actually work with color blindness. Lash will be the judge of that. Unfortunately, the rest of the level is awkward at best. The enemies here are either underused or dull. There's a few one-to-one recreations of Topman stage. Really hurt the creativity score. So it's causing arbitrary rush coil usage, because of course, Big Man 3 has that. Yeah. Beyond that, the level has a lot of broken animations, some very unclear ladders, and a few different pieces that outright struggle to function. Particularly the big hero tends to teleport wherever it turns around. The giant top doesn't respond properly, and there's one spot where the camera can be headache-inducing with how it slides around, which has thankfully been fixed. Alright. Rough level design is one thing, but these broken and busted bits hurt the experience that much more. It can be difficult to appreciate a level when it feels like it's held together by duct tape and silly string. Oh, so just like Mega 3 then. Shinryu, 37 of 100. Given the choice, I'd honestly rather go home. And that's largely due to this level being plagued by a number of technical issues. There's minor things, like certain background tiles slashing while the rest is no animation. Then there's more serious ones, such as one of the spawners for the top platform suddenly not working. Yeah. Along with the new mini-boss price not being centered, causing it to snap to different positions when it turns to jump. Mention it fires at you before it even spawns in. The worst of these actually comes from the camera, when it jerks to the side during a pretty crucial jump later in the level. All of this really makes me question how much playtesting went to the stage before it was submitted. Level design only reinforces this question. Some of the earlier parts of the stage are pretty decent, albeit with some odd things here and there. Like how you use utilities to skip past Thomas' room. Huh. Things start to get messy once you reach the room with the second token. By the way, it's an absolute pain to get. A lot of the rooms afterwards are either really cluttered, or don't have much going on. The rising section in particular won't need a concept, so we're saturated with enemies. The rest of the rooms aren't really that distinct enough to comment on. Although there's one part I noticed that was ripped almost directly from Top Man's original stage, but reversed. On that note, Green Top Man is probably the most enjoyable part of the level. After projectiles and time is required to avoid them make for a fun twist, an otherwise vanilla boss. Would have been a pretty solid end to the stage, if not for the room afterwards. I honestly thought the magnet beam was required to reach the energy element at first, so I realized that those girders to the background were actually ladders. I wouldn't be as upset over this if there were some hints to this earlier in the level, but there's zero indication for it. Sadly, I ended up leaving the stage feeling pretty annoyed. There's definitely some nice ideas here, such as variants of the top platforms and the green Top Man's boss fight, but they're bogged down by rough execution with level design, along with numerous technical issues. Patchy, 60 of 100. Too fast. To spin harder. Oh, I do not like the bright red background at all. It's kinda hard to look at. I feel the later part of the stage subdues it with a much more comforting night color. Also, more remix stages. Well, at least with this stage, it sticks to the theming and actually expands on the original concept. I like the variety of the different types of spinning top platforms, except the white ones, which is kinda meh. Really serves to screw you over in the random spawn chaos. Yeah, the ghost ones kinda suck. I fell for them more than once, because I just don't expect platforms to not work. I thought it was a glitch at first. Some of the tokens are annoyingly placed. Second token is of course hidden away in one of the random openings of the elevator section. Yeah, that one took Rome a long time to find. Third token is annoyingly hidden away by leap of faith screen transition. Seems to be heavily RNG dependent because it may spawn a white top in parts where you need a rail platform. Doesn't help that all of the tops seem to have a very low spawn rate here. The middle part of the level feels like a huge difficulty spike compared to the rest of the stage, full of instant death hazards with no checkpoints throughout either until the end of the giant top elevator ride. It's also the room near the end where the camera kinda snaps around back and forth while you're platforming across, which could be a bit disorienting. Yeah. Flashman 85, 42 of 100. Is Go Home still an option? Because this level is fun to have control. The ideas are there for a great Top Man remix. Loading and... just a moment, people. Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and do this so people can look at the video later and know when I'm finally back. Honestly, if I wasn't so close to finishing, I would just start a new recording, but yeah, I'm already close to being done with this, and I'd rather not have to do it all over again. Is Go Home still an option? Because this level is fun to have control. All the ideas are there for a great Top Man remix. Floating in fake-out top platforms is super clever. Sufficient color contrast for me to tell the non-flashing platforms apart. They look nicer with new graphics befitting their size. Make this elevator and not so many pyramid boss or fun additions. Secretly climbing background architecture offers a lot of possibilities. But then you also have Bicky, Bipin, Cannon, Alekin, Hammerjoe, New Shotman, Cruciu, drop platforms, and multiple flavors of Sparkman platform. The elements are fine, but this entire separate level's worth of assets, on top of all the other new things and everything that was at Top Man's original level. Unfocused, overwhelming are words that come to mind. However, the problem is the lack of restraint, the number of objects on a given screen. Official games rarely require you to keep track of more than 3 or 4 different things at any one time. This level routinely throws double, if not triple, the amount at the player. It's not that the challenges are fundamentally bad. Again, the ideas are there. It's that series would benefit tremendously from the Thanos treatment. Several enemies have been giving me unflattering makeover. Background lights are incorrectly animated, flashing platforms are too flashy, backgrounds in general could use some polish, but I could tell that thought and effort went into them. I count several architectural oversights, soft lock potential after the cat fight, awkward screen shifting in the area near the last token. It's easy to glitch the humongous elevator of existence. The Mega Mechakuru needs a nearby checkpoint, more playtesting. Among other issues, it could jump through the floor and leave you stranded. Sorry I couldn't put a more positive spin on this one. Huh. He didn't really talk about the color blindness when it comes to the platforms. Wait, and there's sufficient color contrast to tell the non-flashing platforms apart. Is that supposed to be him talking about that? Because I figured he'd go a little more in-depth on that, considering he might have had trouble telling them apart. I suppose not, though. Ace Bark, 47 of 100. Another stage that feels like it's about to fall apart at the seams. I got soft-locked a few times here, including the giant resized mid-boss despawning due to having the goal of turning left while next to a wall. Oops. More often, a screen transition leads to unavoidable damage as you walk into an enemy, or on occasion, into a death pit. Yeah, the stage design itself is a bit of a mess, and there is a severe lack of polish in general. Can Mega Man make it out of the Tama Boss room without utilities? No, and it doesn't even look intentional. Gimmicks can get themselves despawned, leaves the player up a creek without a paddle. Nothing stops them from flying off screen. And frankly, you could spend a rather silly amount of time for the large top spawners to give you a valid platform rather than the gray one that has no collision simply due to RNG. Checkpoint placement also seemed arbitrary, with the stupidly large top platform room really feeling like it needed some before it. Otherwise, there's a lot of rather instant death heavy levels. Be boss to get back to it when something goes wrong. For what it's worth, I like the new variants of the dev kit gimmicks. One of them, the horizontal Sparkman platform. If I didn't know any better, you'd swear it was part of the dev kit. It's an obvious addition, assume it's going to get added in the next contest. Huh? Variants of the dev kit gimmicks. One of them, the horizontal Sparkman platform? Horizontal Sparkman platform? Huh. I actually don't remember that. And while I give the top spawners flack, I like the explosive variant. It's a cool change, just a shame that bypassing most of the rooms. Using it comes down to sheer numbers of spawn objects, the more deliberate challenge. Well, I mentioned, and it's a death-heavy segment earlier, those few rooms leading to the mid-boss actually present an interesting challenge to bypass. Shame about the checkpoint. Briefly touch on tokens. First one is clever. Granted, a clue to where it resides is actually given much further into the stage than it needs to be. But that's fine with me, since said token is also so early in the level, it takes mere seconds to collect on a revisit. I'll give token 1 a pass. The others? No, these are heavily bungled. I don't mind tokens, they're sneaky, but there really are no clues as to their locations. One within the absurdly chunky giant top lift area is particularly egregious. The revamped Top Man certainly exists. There's a plot stages trying to do some new with the dev kit bosses. But the exploding top in this fight just throws a monkey wrench into it. Learn how it works, you can reliably avoid it. Total lack of visual tells on the tops here makes it come down to sheer brute force trial and error, more so than normal boss. If the boss had novelty, I wouldn't mind this trial and error aspect as much, but Top Man's base AI is kinda lacking, and everyone's like me and is more willing to try and learn rather dull and lackluster bosses. When in this case, face-tanking the tops to avoid Top Man's contact damage is also a viable path to victory. Whew, sorry for the long break there, but an important phone call came in, and I could not put it down. Like, it was just too important. And like I said, I'd come this far into the video. It would suck if I had to throw it all away and do that again. Yeah, these stages had a lot for the judges to say, and reading it took a while. Let's see, I was on the phone for 17 minutes, and... yeah, even discounting that, this is an hour long. Yeah, just with the judge commentary, no less. Yeah, starting to see why I want to do just 2 videos now. So, what actually happens if I jump off here? Nothing. You just go back to the beginning. Excuse me, but yeah. This was a good eye-opener for me. I definitely will be doing 2 per session now. Not only stages, but judge commentary as well. It's just gonna probably make it easier overall. It just kinda sucks because it's just gonna make the game drag on longer, I feel. But nothing I can do about that. Not unless I want to go freaking insane. But anyways. We are finally... oh yeah, I forgot to mention the boss. That's right, I should talk about the boss too. He's fine. Kinda feels like more of a Mario boss than anything else, but hey, you know, whatever. It was still a fun battle. Especially since I largely did it Buster only. But that's about it. It's kind of weird that plot happens after some tiers, but not others. Feels very strange to me. But... but yeah, we are finally done with Tier 4. I'll be doing the arenas next, and then we'll probably be taking a small break from the game to do other things, but I will come back to this. Thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you later. See ya.